There's nothing like living in a place where you have a sense of peace. You feel a sense of belonging. You embody what is as it relates to the indigenous history of a country and of a continent. And in this video, I want to talk about what it feels like, what it means to live in the majority in South Africa. What that's like. What is that like? I get so many messages, asking me, why did I decide? But majority of them, of course, are positive, right? The majority of the comments that I get from people all over the world, including the beloved community of South Africa, the beloved South Africans that have embraced me and welcomed me so beautifully. I want to say thank you to everyone in the South African community from all over South Africa, all of the provinces, because I truly feel that welcome. Not only here through YouTube, but when I walk outside of my door, right? The conversations that I have, the love that I get, the love that my children get, because we are literally home. This is home. This is our home. This is the place where we were involuntarily removed from 400 years ago, right? There is the 1619 Project. I saw it was premiering on Hulu. And, some people will ask in the comments, why would you want to go back to the place that sold us? And when you don't understand the history, you only learn and understand the history that is taught to you. You can never understand the fullness of what it means to return to the continent of Africa as an indigenous African, as someone with indigenous African blood, right? You'll never know if you're only listening to the history that is being told to you. You yourself must explore that history. So, this gets deep, but let me introduce myself first. To those that are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Ashley. On my channel, Ashley in Africa, I talk about my experience living, moving, and doing business on the continent of Africa. And this is my second country in Africa that I have lived. I am currently living in South Africa, in the province of Gauteng, in Johannesburg, South Africa. And I love it. I love it. Many of you who have been following my journey know that we first moved to Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and I absolutely love that experience. And there we were also in the majority. But I share, and will continue to share some of the similarities that feel so familiar being here in South Africa. It's not only the infrastructure, but it is so much of a similar history that we share that helps South Africans be relatable to African Americans and vice versa. And it's just a seamless connection. I just can't explain it. Unless you have been to South Africa, it is very hard to explain. And yes, there is a very dynamic history and a dynamic culture that exists in South Africa. But the people that often ask me these questions are in America. But y'all still over there with them. Hello, but I digress. And in this video, I just want to talk about what it's like being in the majority, living in the majority, where being Black is just a thing, right? It means very little in the aspect of what it means to just be, right? So welcome to the channel again if you're new, and if this sounds interesting to you and the content that I'm sharing sounds interesting to you, please be sure to like it and share it with someone else who would find value in it as well. And subscribe to the channel as we are growing on a road to 20,000 subscribers. But ultimately, it's not about the subscription. It's really about the message and the impact that it's having. And surprisingly, all over the world, right? And so for the people that have had an interest, that have made the move, that are preparing to make the move, in this video, I just want to reassure you some, because for so many of us living in the diaspora, We yearn for that feeling of being in the majority, being amongst our brothers and sisters, not having to explain ourselves, not having to walk with a label, seeing ourselves, right? Not fighting for representation, but enjoying the representation that is readily available and all around us, right? And that's a part of it. This type of lifestyle invites in a level of peace. There is an unexplainable amount of security that you feel when you're living in the majority. I know, having lived as someone in a country where I am said to be a minority, I am in the majority. I have a sense of safety. I feel secure and I feel at peace. I don't have to walk out of my door questioning if I belong, because I know I belong. And I feel welcomed by the people of South Africa. The Black people, the Black South Africans and the white South Africans and the Indian South Africans, the colored as well. Like, I feel welcome. I feel safe, I feel secure, and I feel at home here in South Africa. And that is something that is just unexplainable, right? And there's also a reminder, being in the majority, that we didn't always struggle. Right? So I'm not going to ever discount the history of African Americans or South Africans here in South Africa, Black South Africans. The history here is dynamic. And the power that exists still till today, that has existed for 500, 1,000 years, is still very dynamic. Not all of us as Africans on this continent have suffered. And that is a fact. Many of us take in the stories that we are told, we take in the experiences that we have experienced, but not all of our ancestors struggled, right? Many of us have ancestors that were kings, that were queens, that were emperors, that were empresses, that were gods, that are gods, right? Our ancestors did not all experience struggle. However, for many of us living in the diaspora, specifically in America, parts of South America, the Caribbean, our ancestors through that story all were the descendants of slaves, all came through the transatlantic slave trade, right? And having that constant reminder every time a Black body is taken away from us irresponsibly by people of another race, or every time we are meant to celebrate our history, we are reminded that our lineage comes from pain, comes from, sorrow, comes from inexplainable, unexplainable, horrific experiences. But that is not our story. And when you live in a majority, in a population where everyone looks like you, people are doing well and are not in fear of their life despite that, right? You're reminded that all of us did not struggle. But there are, yes, some of our ancestors that did, and we honor those, but we must never forget the ancestors that we have that walked this earth in peace, in resilience, in love, and power, because there are ancestors of ours as African people that didn't have the same struggle story, that struggle life, that horrific history that we have repeated year over year. That's a big one. I'm not sure if everybody's gonna understand that, but there is power in that understanding. Right? So if this is resonating with you, please be sure to like it and share it with someone else who would find value in it. The next thing is that we do have nations that support us. Oftentimes, when things happen in our community, we talk about how the fact that African Americans are not protected because nations don't support us in the way that some of the other Americans that are living in America have nations that support them. The reality is our support is spiritual, which is the most powerful support that there is. Because of our dynamic history, because of the way in which we've been conditioned to believe that we are minor, that we are less than, that we will never ascend to, right? Or that the world is run by. The definition of support often looks like capital. And because African Americans were the original seed capital of a country and continue to be that seed capital in multiple ways by being in, a capitalistic society fueled by greed, drugs and all of the alike, we forget that our truest form of support is spiritual. Our ancestors, our people here on this continent support us. They love us. They yearn for us. They welcome us. They want us here. They want us here. And with that, they pray for us. They affirm us. They accept us. They love us. And that type of support can never be compared to the capital that we see some of these other Western and Eastern countries that support their communities in America. We cannot compare it because it is incomparable, right? It is truly incomparable to the spiritual support that our brothers and sisters here on the continent have for us. Africans are overwhelmingly loving, overwhelmingly supportive. And because we originated from this land, there is power in this land. There is power being attached to this land, being attached to your indigenous language, your indigenous culture, your indigenous spirituality, and the way in which our brothers and sisters yearn for us on this continent means that we cannot fail when we come with the truest intentions of love, collaboration, and true understanding and compassion. Right? So we do have a nation, we have nations, we have a continent that supports us in that way. And that is what it feels like as I take this deep breath of what it feels like to live in the majority in not only a country, but on a continent. The last thing is the level of restorative confidence that you feel. For many of you that have been following my journey, my earlier videos, the anxiety, okay, the depression that I had living in America with all of the things, right? With the 6-figure income, the $1 million home, the luxury car, the bags, the shoes, but no confidence, no awareness of self, no understanding of myself and really where I come from. And not only is it beautiful to just see myself represented everywhere, not yearn for it, not fight for it, not tweet about it, not Instagram about it, TikTok about it, but to live in it, to be in it, that restorative confidence that is injected into me and my children every day, where they are being taught indigenous languages, where no one is questioning their value because of their skin color. No one is questioning their capacity because of what they look like. But they are honored, they are revered, they are cared for, they are comforted in their Blackness because they have made it home. We have made it home. It's powerful. And unless you have been here, you will never understand. So come. You are welcome. You are welcome in this place. You are welcome in this country. You are welcome on this continent. When you come with the intention of love, compassion, empathy, and understanding, that is what it is like to live as the majority, to be in the majority, and to just be and to be able to live in full actualization of self here on the continent. As someone who wasn't born here, I have never felt more safe. I have never felt more welcome. I have never felt more loved and accepted as myself. And yes, no place is perfect. South Africa, Africa as a continent is not a utopia, but there is something that is very comforting in knowing that when you walk in love in this place, when you walk in acceptance and understanding and empathy and compassion, You can truly be successful here. And success is measured differently by different people. But success for me is really that self-actualization, completely being able to be who I am in my fullness, unapologetically. That is what it means to live in the majority and to be in the majority here in South Africa. So I hope this video was valuable and you found value in it and it resonated with you. And if it did, please be sure to like it, share it with someone else, and subscribe to the channel so that you'll get updates on when I post new content and content like this next. Until the next video, I'll see you soon.